Welcome everybody to Forza Motorsport 7, and today we're taking a look at the 1970 Citroën 2CV. Now this is a car that was made between 1948 and 1988 in France, and was actually made up until 1990 in Portugal, where more than 3.8 million were made. So a hugely successful car for Citroën, especially since it was bankrupt in the 30s, only saved by Michelin, who wanted a car that was for the masses. And yeah, actually nearly 9 million were spawned based on the underpinnings of this car through different variants and the like. So yeah, hugely successful car for Citroën, and yeah, considering this was released just after World War II, it helped mobilise a country that was absolutely devastated by that war. And yeah, it was designed to be cheap, rugged and useful, and it was all three of those things, quite frankly, because France's population at the time was mainly a rural population and they were low income. So yeah, a cheap, rugged vehicle is exactly what they needed, and Citroën provided. This was actually you can actually date this car back to the 30s, before World War II, but back then it was even more of a cheap and utilitarian vehicle. It didn't even have two headlights, for instance, and yeah, but nonetheless, it's an economy car, and the first million plus seller in terms of a front wheel drive vehicle. Obviously Citroën had success with front wheel drive vehicles before with the traction Avant, but that sold around 760,000, so not even a third of the total of this car. And yeah, huge success, icon in pop culture, and instantly recognisable. Engineering wise, outside of the front wheel drive system, which was really rather innovative, it's not got all that much power. It's got an air cooled flat twin 4-stroke 602cc engine which produces 33 horsepower and 31 pounds-feet of torque. So no, not the least amount of power you can get from a car around that time, but hardly the most as well. But because it weighs only 1,504 pounds, it's at least able to use the most of that power. And yeah, because obviously it's a much larger vehicle than other small cars from that time, it's obviously more useful. Because yeah, you know, like the Fiat 500, the BMW Isetto, they were micro cars essentially. Yeah, you could probably get 4 people in a Fiat 500, but you wouldn't have, they wouldn't be as comfortable, and they wouldn't be able to carry as much luggage either, unlike this vehicle. And yeah, it's really good to see such an iconic car in this game, even if it isn't all that quick. But you know, it goes along with other economy cars that we've had in this series, and yeah, it's really pleased to see such an iconic vehicle. Unfortunately, because it's a car that was stuck in its ways from 1948 onwards, it wasn't really able to update its design all that much in terms of crashworthiness or in terms of luxury, because yeah, when it was designed in 1948, wind down windows were considered too expensive and too heavy to put in, so it was just flap out windows. But obviously over time those components got cheaper and lighter, but because of the car's design, you can put them in, as you can see, because it's got such thin doors. I've seen thicker pieces of paper than these doors, and yeah, that's ultimately why this car eventually died. But you know, 40 years is hardly a short run for production, and selling all those millions of cars certainly is no bad thing. Nonetheless, we're going to take this car out onto the track and see what it can or can't do. So see you when we get there. So like with the Subaru 360 at Lime Rock full circuit alternate, I find this track, you know, can get the best out of these slower vehicles that we have on this game. So yeah, let's see what this icon can do. So yeah, it's got actually quite a high revving engine. It's got a 4-speed manual transmission, which for a cheap and rugged vehicle is quite an expensive and innovative future on such a car. Certainly struggle to find other economy cars with such a gearbox back in the day, especially from 1948. Now this car had a horsepower ratings anywhere from 9 up until this 33 horsepower version, but no more. And this was, yeah, the most powerful version. Unfortunately its power decreased over time after this due to emissions etc, but apparently it got a higher top speed due to a more efficient engine even if it didn't have as much power. So yeah, most powerful version, but not necessarily the quickest in terms of top speed, but certainly probably the quickest in terms of acceleration. But quick in terms of acceleration with this car is still really rather slow. 0 to 60 in 32.723 seconds, which admittedly is faster than the Subaru, but still really rather slow. And it can't do 100 mile an hour, it can only do 71 miles an hour, which admittedly is the top speed for the UK on motorways, but I can imagine this being a terrifying car to drive at that speed, especially when you've got huge lorries etc riding up right alongside you, and this car is hardly safe. Can't imagine crashing at 70 mile an hour being all that much fun in this vehicle. But yeah, I am really glad this car's on the game, because revolutionised, you know, the kind of car industry in a way. Like I said, it was the first million plus seller front wheel drive vehicle, and yeah, really led the way in terms of economy cars, and kind of hope that it means that we get more economy vehicles like this from the 60s and 70s, because there sure are plenty to try out, like the Simca 1000, the Renault 4, the Renault Dauphine, even the Fiat 600 or a standard Fiat 500 wouldn't go amiss either. So yeah, I do hope they add more vehicles like this, because it does add variety, it does, you know, provide some thrills, because cars like this I do find fun to drive. You can have just as much fun driving a car like this at 50 mile an hour than you can have a car at 100, 150, so as far as I'm concerned, especially when you're driving against other people in the same kind of vehicles. And obviously if they increase the variety of those economy vehicles, we can have even more fun. So yeah, really glad they put this on the game. Obviously they've put it in the same car park with a couple of other economy vehicles like the Subaru 360, which we've already reviewed, and the Volkswagen Type 3, which we'll eventually review as well, that being easily the quickest of the three. But nonetheless, to have such a iconic vehicle finally on a Forza game is nothing but a good thing as far as I'm concerned, and hopefully it means that we get more classics like this to come, because there are plenty of European cars out there that might not be the quickest of things, but nonetheless are still well known that should be on a game like this. Anyway, I do hope you have tried the car pack if you've got it and you enjoy the vehicles as much as I do, because yeah, it's really nice to see such vehicles in a game like this, and it's high time we've had a Citroën 2CV to go along with the likes of the Volkswagen Beetle that we've long had on this game. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.